what's next. I wanna face this world with wonder and excitement. Face every challenge every day.
There's a spirit I cannot contain. There's a spirit I cannot contain. The same power that raised Jesus up from the grave. The same spirit I cannot contain. Everywhere I go on this road, high and low, where I go with you. So I won't be afraid, this my hope. What may, where I go with you. Oh, where I go with you. Oh, where I go with you. Your breath upon these bones, your fire in my soul. Your kingdom is my home, and I don't walk alone. Everywhere I go on this road, high and low, where I go with you. So I won't be afraid, this my hope, come what may, where I go with you.
Come on now, join with me, everybody sing. I'm gonna lift my voice to glorify my King. He is a mighty God and worthy of our praise. We give him everything, he's good in every way. Come on now, join with me, everybody sing. I'm gonna lift my voice to glorify my King. He is a mighty God and worthy of our praise. We give him everything, he's good in every way.
He is always there for us.
He's good in every way.
Pouring out his awesome love.
He's good in every way.
He fills us up with peace and joy.
He's good in every way.
He gives us all we need and more.
He's good in every way.
Come on now, join,
Come on now, join with me, everybody sing. I'm gonna lift my voice to glorify my King. He is a mighty God and worthy of our praise. We give him everything, he's good in every way.
He is always there for us.
He's good in every way.
Pouring out his awesome love.
He's good He is a mighty God and worthy of our praise. We give him everything. He's good in every way. He's good in every way. He's good in every way.
These past couple of weeks, we've been learning some verses from Matthew 22:37 through 39. It says, "Love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your mind. This is the greatest and most important command. The second is like it, love your neighbor as yourself." Jesus spoke these words to some religious leaders who asked him, "Which command in the law is the greatest?" I'd like to talk with you for a minute about this. There's been a lot on the news this past week. Maybe you've seen it or heard someone talking about some of the things that have been going on. There has been some rioting, and some people are angry, some people are scared, and a lot of people are sad. There's been some racial tension and just a lot of stuff going on. And I've been doing a lot of thinking and a lot of praying and wondering, what does God want us to do about everything that's going on? And then I thought about our key passage that we've been learning the past couple of weeks. Parents, I would like to talk with you first. Racism is a learned behavior. It is something that is taught either by our words or by our actions. We as parents have been given the incredible blessing and responsibility of raising our children in the Lord and training them up to love others just like Jesus. Let's always be mindful of showing our kids how to love and show kindness and compassion to everyone we come in contact with. Kids, next week we will be talking about why God gives us rules. Sometimes it seems like there are a lot of rules to follow, but as we see in Jesus' answer to the religious leaders, it all boils down to two simple rules. Love God with all you've got and love your neighbor as yourself. Well, who is your neighbor? Is it just the people that live next door to you? The Bible teaches us that our neighbor is everyone that we meet. And what about loving them as yourself? What does that look like? As most of you know, chickens and glitter are two of my favorite things. Not everyone loves chickens like me, and certainly not everyone loves glitter and sparkle like me, especially you boys. Should I not be friends with the people who think differently than I do? What if someone doesn't look like I do or dress like I do? Should I treat them any differently? The Bible teaches that we are all created in the image of God, that God knit each of us together in our mother's womb, and he created each of us with a special purpose that no one else can fulfill. I really want you to work on committing these words to memory. Love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your mind. This is the greatest and most important command. The second is like it, love your neighbor as yourself. And when you're feeling sad or scared or confused and you're not sure what to do or how to act, remember, love God with all you've got and love everyone else just like you love yourself. Hey, it's you again. Do you remember me? I am Miss Cheryl, and I am so excited to share this week's Bible lesson with you. In the Bible story we'll hear today, Moses had a big job to do, and he needed some helpers. Listen carefully to find out what kind of people were right for the job. The Bible is awesome because it is the Word of God. Every word in the Bible is true, and everything that we can read in the Bible helps to teach us about God. It helps to answer our big picture question. What is God like? The answer is God is holy, good, and loving. The Old Testament tells us about God and his people, the nation Israel. God had a plan to send his son Jesus through them into the world. With Moses as their leader, God rescued them from slavery in Egypt, through the Red Sea, and into the wilderness toward the promised land that he had promised to give them. If you remember from last week's lesson, they weren't there very long before they started to complain. There was no food to eat and no water to drink. They wanted to turn around and go back to Egypt. But God provided for the physical needs of his people. He sent manna and quail and even provided water from a rock. Leading the Israelites was hard work for Moses. And we'll hear in the Bible story today, it wasn't good for Moses to lead alone. Check this out.
Moses and the Israelites were camping in the wilderness near the mountain of God, the same place where God had spoken to Moses through the burning bush. Moses' father-in-law, Jethro, lived nearby in the land of Midian. He had heard about the Israelites' escape from Egypt. Moses' wife and sons were staying with Jethro, and they all came to the wilderness to see Moses.
When Jethro was on his way, he sent a message to Moses. "I'm coming to see you," he said, "and your wife and sons are with me." Moses hurried out to meet them. He greeted Jethro and invited him into his tent. Moses told Jethro about everything God had done for the Israelites, how God had punished the Egyptians and stopped Pharaoh, and how God provided for his people and protected them. Jethro praised God for all the good things he had done.
The next day, Moses sat down to judge the people. The people stood around all day and waited for Moses to listen to their case. Jethro asked Moses, "Why are you the only one judging the people? They have to stand around you all day." Moses said, "The people want answers. Whenever they have a disagreement, I listen to their problems and tell them what God's laws are." "This is not good," Jethro said. "This job is too big for one person."
Then Jethro gave Moses some advice. "You can be the person who speaks to God for the Israelites. Teach the people God's laws. Show them how to live. Tell them what God wants them to do. But choose trustworthy men from all the people to lead smaller groups of people. They can judge the people's less important cases and bring the most important ones to you. This way, you won't get worn out from doing everything by yourself, and the people will be happy because they don't have to stand around all day to get an answer."
So Moses took Jethro's advice. He chose men from all of Israel and made them leaders over the people. They judged the smaller cases and brought the big cases to Moses. Then Jethro returned to his own land.
Moses needed others to help him lead God's people and teach them God's laws. God does not want believers to follow Jesus alone. He gives us brothers and sisters of faith who can help us love God, obey God, and tell others about him.
The Israelites had come a long way from Egypt. Whenever they left Egypt, there was about 600,000 men, plus women and children. That is a lot of people. And as you can imagine, with so many people, it wasn't easy to get along all the time. There was a lot of arguing and fighting, conflict. The people had to learn how to get along and work together for their own good. As their leader, one of Moses' jobs was to listen to the people whenever they had an argument. If two people had a disagreement, they would come to Moses, he would listen to them, and then he would tell them what they should do. As we saw in the Bible lesson today, though, it was a lot of work. People would stand in line all day, and sometimes there still wasn't enough time for Moses to hear everyone. Moses needed help to lead God's people. Moses' father-in-law, Jethro, saw everything that Moses was trying to do and said, "What you are doing is not good. It is too big of a job for one person. You can't do this alone." So Moses took Jethro's advice and chose trustworthy men to help do some of the work. They listened to the smaller problems and brought the big problems to Moses. Moses needed others to help lead God's people and teach them God's laws. God doesn't want believers to follow Jesus alone. He gives us brothers and sisters in faith to help us learn how to obey God, to learn about God, and to tell others about him. Let's say our big picture question and answer together. What is God like? God is holy, good, and loving. Do you think that Moses is the only person to ever need help? Let's watch our Question from Kids video with Pastor Brian to see what it has to say about that.
Hey there, I'm Pastor Brian, and it's time for Questions from Kids. Jordan from Ellensburg, Washington asks,
I try really hard to do what God says is right because I love Jesus, but sometimes I mess up. Is it okay for Christians to ask for help?
Jordan, thanks for asking that. That's a really good question. And you know, it's one that we can all relate with because we all mess up and we all need help. And that's the beautiful thing. God designed it that way. He didn't design for us to live as Christians by ourselves. He wants us to depend on Him first and foremost, understanding that it's His power that enables us to live and bring Him glory. But also He's given us this beautiful gift of the church, that He wants us to rely on one another and seek help from one another. So Jordan, you should be asking others for help, and guess what? Other people at times should be asking you for help as well, because that's how God designed it. So who are some people that God has put in your life to help you?
God does not intend for us to follow him alone. He has given us so many people that we can follow God along with. Can you think of anyone that God has put in your life to help you learn about God and help you follow him? He's given you a mom and a dad, maybe a grandparent, an older brother or sister, your teachers at Hope, and me, just to name a few. And God has given us his word, the Bible. Our key passage is Matthew 22, 37 through 39. If you can read it, read along with me. Love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your mind. This is the greatest and most important command. The second is like it. Love your neighbor as yourself. These words are from the New Testament. Does anyone remember who said them? Jesus. Jesus was teaching people, and he is teaching us what is most important. Let's keep working on learning these words. Thanks for hanging out with me virtually. Come back next week when we'll start talking about what I like to call the perfect 10.